morning.
Good morning, everybody. Good morning, Sabrina. I'm just going to turn over this broadcast to Sabrina this morning, and she's going to talk to you about emotional equity. We hear a lot about it, and I think it's an extremely important topic that we talk about. And then next week, we're going to try to have a foreclosure attorney on. We had Matt Kelly on, who does trustee type foreclosures in non-judicial states, and we're going to get a foreclosure attorney on who does foreclosures for us in judicial states. I think it'll be very helpful. So next week, Sabrina will be on vacation, and we will have I hope to have an attorney that we use quite a bit and that we're very, very happy with. So keep posted on that. So Sabrina, take it away.
Good morning, everyone. I am so happy that you guys are joining us this morning. Well, for me, it's afternoon. So just a couple of quick announcements before I get started. I want to talk a little bit about Note Mogul. And if you actually want to come and want to have a little bit of a discount, we're going to give you a big discount. Right now, our price is $19.97, and we're offering dual entry for $19.97, but we are giving a $500 discount. I don't know what the promotion code is. Shame on me. Ron, do you have it?
I don't, but I will have. Yeah, I do have. It is SF 2015. No, that's not it.
Shame on us, you guys.
Yeah.
We're sorry.
I'll have it before the end of the broadcast. I'll get Axel to provide it for me. One thing that the 1997 is for two people, by the way. That's not the price for one person. It's two people for $19.97, and we're giving a discount to on that $500 discount, so it brings it down to $14.97. So that guest pretty much comes for free. So, okay, sorry about that, Sabrina. I'll have the code for you before we end.
So now that we've gotten our housekeeping issues out of the way, I do want to say that Main Street Asset Solutions and Main Street Capital Partners, we are not giving you legal advice. We are giving you this information for educational purposes only. And if you want to act on anything that we are suggesting, please seek legal counsel or contact an account. But today I want to talk to you guys about emotional equity and how valuable emotional equity is in reference to what we do, especially in the second space. It can be valuable in the first space as well, but it's very, very valuable in the second space. A lot of us, when we buy our loans, sometimes they're 3 to 5 years past due. And you're looking at this and you're like, how do I ever recover my investment? Well, you recover your investment by doing a little bit of homework, by using maybe a property preservation company to go out to do a door knock, to take photos of your property, contact a local agent who will sometimes go out and look at the property for you and tell you what they think of the neighborhood and the condition of the property, or just by interviewing the borrower when you actually get them on the phone. That contact, that first initial contact with the borrower, and if you listen to them, you can find out so much information from them, and you can tell how emotionally attached they are to their property. You need to ask them fact-finding questions, such as, do you have any family members that live in the neighborhood? Do you have any small children that go to school? If they make mention of that they have some type of illness or they've been ill, how far is their doctor's office or the hospital to their residence? One thing that people will do is they're creatures of habit, and they don't want to actually go out of their comfort zone. So their comfort zone is their home. And you want to remember that every home has a heartbeat. And if that home has a heartbeat, you have the ability to bring your loan back to life, no matter how delinquent it is. I think that that's very important for you guys to understand that. I can can give you a couple of scenarios. We had a family in, I think it was in New Jersey. The father was a contractor, and he basically was self-employed all of his life. This is a new loan that we have, and he didn't put up a lot for Social Security. His first mortgage is over $4,400 a month. We have a second, and he's gotten a loan mod, and the loan mod is greater than the initial payment, and he cannot afford it. But because this is a property that his son grew up in, his son is willing to help him make the payment. So what we're going to do is we're going to play, I say the social worker, and I'm going to attempt to help him modify his first again, because he just can't afford it based off of the income and the money that he's saved. And then we're going to then work with him on his second mortgage. He talked about how he worked so hard as an independent contractor, and he had a very comfortable living when he was working, but he didn't plan. He didn't plan for the economy to take a crash. He didn't plan on not having the ability to make his mortgage payment when he took these loans out. But that emotional equity and that attachment that his son has is going to cause his son to contribute financially in order to make this work. So that's the power of having emotional equity when you are dealing with a borrower who is delinquent. And if you see that they're taking care of their yard, you see that if it's around a holiday, that they have Christmas decorations up, Easter decorations up, those are indications that they have no intentions on going anywhere. But what it is how do you crack the code to make them start paying you? I don't recommend that you do anything just solely based on emotional equity. You still need to do your fact-finding information in reference to having the ability to pay. So you still need to collect their financials. You need to collect 2 to 3 months worth of bank statements. You need to collect their pay stubs. You need to collect their tax returns, have them complete a 4506T, and also still make them give you a hardship letter. Make them provide you a hardship letter to see what happened. These are things that you can have that will help you later if they fall into default, so you know what approach to take, and maybe where you can cut some corners. You can also make sure that you verify if they've applied for a homestead exemption for their taxes if they qualify. What makes them qualify for a homestead exemption is if they're over, sometimes between 60 and 65, depending on the state, if they've served in the military, and if they are disabled. Those are the 3 things that you can inquire with the homeowner about a homestead exemption. And if you actually can get them to apply for the homestead exemption, again, there's money that'll help you pay your second mortgage that they weren't able to pay. Some of the other things that you want to look at as far as emotional equity, one of the things that we ask, if we're interacting with a homeowner, we ask for interior photos. If you get those interior photos and that house is immaculate, everything is in place, again, that is showing that there is pride in ownership and there is emotional equity. I tell people all the time, emotional equity will make you rich. It's worth more than diamonds and gold if you actually pay attention and you listen to your homeowner and what they actually want to do in the current situation that they are in. Sometimes, again, life happens. A borrower gets sick, they get divorced, they have a child that's sick, and they are not able to recover. But if you give them solutions and you help them during their emotional time, they will be faithful and they will pay you forever. I think we have another one right now. We have a lady that I think her daughter is ill, and she calls our other vice president probably 2-3 o'clock in the morning to leave her a message, to letting her know what's going on with her daughter, and she really wants to pay, and she wants to resolve things with us, but she's trying to handle that her daughter is terminal and probably only has a short time to live. But there is an emotional attachment that once her daughter passes away, I think that she will probably continue to pay us once we get her on track. Those are the things where you show empathy and you try to show that you understand. And it may not be a resolution within 3 weeks, 2 months, but you have to actually stay focused. And sometimes you still, even with that emotional equity, you need to initiate foreclosure to let them know that you're serious. So just because you know that there's an emotional equity there, but there's no dollar value equity there, it doesn't mean that you don't start foreclosure. Foreclosure is really our last result, our end result, but we will sometimes initiate foreclosure just to get the borrower's attention, to let them know that we're serious. One of the other things in reference to emotional equity, if you actually look at someone's financials and you look and you see that they're just frivolous with money, but they still seem to be caught up emotionally about their home, if you take the right approach and just make some suggestions on their financials, on how their spending habits are going after you've reviewed their bank statements, they may not have some very kind words to say to you initially, but eventually they will actually listen to what you're saying, and sometimes they will cut some of the things that they need to cut in order to make it work, to be able to make payment on their second mortgage. And you said, well, why do I need emotional equity when I'm in a first mortgage position? Well, we have a lot of first mortgages that are way underwater. We have $100,000 loans on properties that are worth $20,000. So how does that emotional equity work with the first mortgage? That emotional equity is that they still have pride in ownership. They don't want to lose their home, but it's not worth nearly what they owe on it. So sometimes you have to actually use a forbearance agreement to reduce the principal balance, to get them to actually still engage with you and make payments on that mortgage, on that first mortgage. So when you think about, well, I'll just foreclose and I'll take the property. If you're doing your own workouts, which we don't recommend, because we don't allow anyone that has loans service with us to do their own workouts, because you can also get very emotional because you have an emotional attachment because it's your own money. So if the loan is if the property is only worth $20,000 and the loan is $100,000, we as the servicer could say to you, how about if we reduce their principal balance down to $50,000, and it's some give and take in reference to getting the homeowner to do some type of workout, and they don't just walk away. And they will be forever grateful for that. It's not always the woe is me and it's your fault. And one of the things that I'm really, really big about when I'm talking to homeowners, when they actually start pointing the finger at us as the big banks or the financial institution, is like, at the beginning of this, you got exactly what you wanted, is your home. You took a responsibility. You executed loan documents to say you were going to pay this back, and you knew exactly what you were going to get. And on your loan documents, it told you exactly how much you would have to pay back. So you just have to have some really hard conversations with the borrower, whether it's the first loan or a second mortgage, on what they committed to. And some people who are emotional, who have that emotional attachment, they're very prideful. They're very prideful, and you can tell that by the conversations that you're having once you get past the anger. I don't know if we're having technical difficulties in the main office. Do you have any questions for me, Ron, or anything you want to engage in reference to emotional equity?
I guess the only statement that I've got to make, Sabrina, is to just let people know the reasons that we can benefit because of emotional equity. Typically, when we buy a note, be it a first or a second, the homeowner has had contact with the bank, and their only recourse usually is to pay all of their arrears and start making their payments again. Well, Sabrina, in her comments when she first started, said some of these notes haven't been paid for 3 to 5 years. So if you would take the gentleman who was the contractor, whose first payment was $4,400 a month, and you take that times, let's say, 3 years, he's looking at $150,000 in arrears. And there's just no way that these people can come up with those arrears. And somebody in a $100,000 house could very easily have $30,000 in arrearages. So the point is that you are buying these notes at such a discount that you are able to do things to keep the homeowner in their home that the bank is simply either unwilling to do or can't do. And that is the number one thing that you got to keep in mind, that you make your money on the purchase of these notes, not on the backs of the homeowner. If the homeowner wants to stay in their home, then, and just put yourself in their position. What do you think about your home? If the homeowner wants to stay there because of the discounts that you're purchasing at, you can make that happen. It comes down then to, am I making the purchase at the right price? If you're not, then nothing that you can do will help. If you're paying too much for the note, that you cannot make it a worthwhile deal for the homeowner, then you're going to lose. So it all starts with the purchase price. But if you're purchasing at the proper discounts, you can make it happen for the homeowner. By the way, the promo code for the discount on dual participation in our Note Mogul is P and the number 2. Oh, excuse me. Promo code is LIVE, L-I-V-E, L-I-V-E, live. All right. So, thank you. All right, Sabrina, that's all I have to say about emotional equity. It is right up there with fair market value when it comes to dealing with a homeowner, and it is a huge deciding factor in whether the homeowner is going to stay in the house or not. So,
one of the other things in reference to emotional equity, I know maybe I need to elaborate a little bit. When I said, you know, do you have family members that live in the neighborhood? We have a home right now that we foreclosed on in second position, and we had the homeowner actually lived across the street from her mom, and that is very, 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 very helpful, because we were actually able to work something out, because the homeowner lived right across the street from her parents. Regardless of how much hardball she was playing with us, she basically didn't want to leave from being across the street from her parents. Sometimes when you have school-age children that actually can walk to school, and you think about having to move and that child having to get on the bus or walking in a new neighborhood that they're not familiar with, as parents, we're very protective of our children. Another thing, in reference to, even if they drive to work, if you're 5 miles away from work and you have to move, and the only thing that you can afford is 20 miles away from where you live currently, because rent's going to be way more than what you're paying in a mortgage, those are ways to actually have a conversation with a homeowner to actually keep them focused, to make them realize that you can make this a win-win for them. And with us being the bank, as Ron stated, we can actually change, I won't say the terms, but we can change that reinstatement amount to something that's affordable after we've looked at their financials. And sometimes the reality is, no matter how much emotional equity that a homeowner has, if the reality sets in that they just can't afford it, you have to find a way to help them transition into something else. And some of you may know, I was experienced with a horrible experience with emotional equity. And I had done everything that I could possibly do for this homeowner, even down to paying her water bill. And we had actually foreclosed. It was a property in Ohio. And she told me, she said, Sabrina, I'm not leaving my home. And I said, I have done everything that I could possibly do. We had actually went to Catholic Charities. She'd gotten a couple other local agencies to make her mortgage payment, to assist her in every way possible. But at the end of the day, the reality was that we ended up having to foreclose. And we had hired a moving company. We helped her pack up. This woman's house was immaculate. But at the end of the day, the phone call that I got from the moving company was a phone call that I never imagined that I would get. And it haunts me every day. when I think about what I'm doing and when I'm interacting with the borrower. When we got the phone call from the young man telling us that she was laying in her door the day of eviction, the day of move out, and she was dead, she had committed suicide. So emotional equity can be very wealthy, but can be also very, very dangerous. And you need to know that there's a heartbeat in every home, and you never, ever, ever want to be responsible for that heartbeat stopping. And even though it's a business decision that you are making, you still have to remember that these are people's lives. The only, I'd say, relief that I get from this situation happening on my watch was that the borrower's best friend actually had a conversation with me, and she says she had issues long before your investment company came around. And if it hadn't have been her moving out or having to leave her house, it would have been something else that made her snap. But there is no money, no profit worth anyone's life. And I want you guys to realize that when you're dealing with this, there are bad things that happen. And one thing that I want to share with you about Main Street, we tell all the good stories, but we want to give you a reality check and share the reality, the reality of these things do happen, happens every day. But the difference between a big firm and a small firm was I was the person who placed the phone call to this woman's daughter. And still was told that if we had been involved in some huge big bank, no one would have known. That life would not have mattered. But it mattered to me, and it actually makes me think about some of the decisions that I make and how I negotiate with a homeowner. That is why it's so important to listen. It's so important to listen, to pay attention, and know when to stop and know when to stop pushing. Sometimes it's worth putting a file on the back shelf for 60, 90 days, 6 months, until you can actually come to grips or work something out with a homeowner. It's not always about profit. It's an investment, and we are all in this to make money. But sometimes you do have to realize how powerful emotional equity is. It can be very, very powerful in making you money. It can also be very, very powerful in something happening to a homeowner that you don't want to live with or deal with.
I'm going to kind of close on a little lighter subject there, not a lighter subject, but a lighter thing that happened to us. We had a buyer or a homeowner borrower in New Jersey, and this is how big emotional equity can be. One that turned out wonderfully. We had a second mortgage on the property. The homeowner had done a lot of fix up on this house, and they had done the fix up themselves. And while we were in a position, and the homeowner borrower was very, very willing to give us a deed in lieu of foreclosure as opposed to foreclosing, we couldn't accept a deed in lieu because the homeowner had liens behind us. And if you must realize that if you accept a deed in lieu, then anything behind you accept. You're taking it subject to the liens that are also behind you, and we just couldn't do that. So we ended up foreclosing on the homeowner and then renting the property back to them, and then helping them with a modification on their first so that they could buy the property. We put the title back in their name. The refinance on the first got us paid, and they are now living in their house again. And they were willing to go through all those hoops to do so strictly because of emotional equity. And the foreclosure had to take place because once we foreclosed, it wiped out all of those liens behind us. So there's one that worked out really, really well. The people are still living in their house and still working on it. So it just gives you an indication of how powerful emotional equity can be. So Sabrina, I'm finished. If you have more, great. I would like to see as many people as we can get in the San Francisco Note Mogul. Thank you for being on today. Have a great vacation. And hopefully next week we will have a foreclosure attorney that we use who does a very, very good job for us, very knowledgeable in the judicial states. And we'll be letting him give us some instruction on doing judicial foreclosures. So thank you, Sabrina.
Thanks. I think I'm done.
Okay. All right. Well, thank you, everybody. Look forward to seeing you next week. Take care.